Hi, I'm Ozzy from Three Monkey Solderless, and welcome to my little personal channel where I like to mess around with goofy projects on the weekends and create things and just have a little bit of fun, and share some of that with everybody. So today, for this week, rather, I think what we're going to do is we're going to build another pedal board. And in keeping with the insanity that we've been going, we're still going for that sound. But we're going to focus in on let's say a self-contained unit using those Pedalfires, specifically the Smallbox-3 from the other videos, along with some carefully chosen current production pedals, to come up with a solution for getting that sound in the smallest footprint possible and as, let's say, practically as inexpensive as you can do it. So, I mean, previously we've been using, all the Marshalls and the, Uri compressors and all this kind of stuff. And we're using the aux box, and a lot of that is fairly expensive and rare. So for this, we're going to build a very practical pedal board. We're actually going to use, a TV tray. Okay, like from Target, one of those little sort of like TV dinner trays, a black one. We're going to use that. We're going to use some little stomp boxes, mostly MXR stuff, and we're just going to see how it all works out. And I'm going to show you how to put it all together using the Three Monkeys line of solderless products for DC and AC. I'm going to show you how to to nail it down, to get the thing to be very reliable. Very solid, something that you can throw in your car and gig with, and you're not going to have, problems troubleshooting it. It's, you build it and you forget about it. It's going to work for a really long time. So if that sounds like something you're interested in doing or watching, well, stick around, and we're going to be doing that over the next couple of days. So I hope you find it fun. So we'll see you downstairs. Okay, so we're downstairs at the table, and we're going to start building this TV tray pedal board, which is kind of an interesting little thing. It's got some homemade elements to it, but it's going to have all the right things in the right places. Will be suitable for touring. It's just relatively easy to do, and we would have to say it's very practical. It's pragmatic. So for those of you that like pragmatism and practicality, this is going to be right up your alley. So first we start off with this. And this is just a TV tray that you could get at Target, right? They're like $10. And you can take off, you can see there are screw holes from where the legs were attached at one point. It's a fold-up TV tray. It's just made out of wood. Probably some of them are made out of actually pine or something along those lines, strip pine, all kind of put together. I think this one might be particle board, but either way, it's very strong, very rugged, lightweight. It's finished already in black. This one I've had some tape on before, but we're just going to start off together. So we got the Target board, the Target TV tray. Then we're going to use some of these Marshall style feet. These are available from places like Mojo Tone or Amp Parts Direct or any place that you would find CE distribution parts for amplifiers. You could buy these rubber feet. You can even get rubber feet at Home Depot. They won't be like these, but you could definitely get them at Home Depot. The other thing we're going to use are what are called like basically drawer pulls, and these I got at Lowe's, and they're just in a machined. Well, feels like aluminum. Could be. Has a little bit of a tinge to it. This may not be. This may be steel. Yeah, I think it is. So this is probably a mild steel drawer pull, and it comes with the little screws here that kind of get screwed in there. And we're going to use these for making it carrying, like carry handles, simple carry handles. So the first thing we would want to do is we would want to attach our rubber feet. Right. So we're going to take our rubber feet, and I've pre-drilled some holes here for the feet to go into, and I'm just going to use my drill here and kind of just get it all put together. Okay. And this will help with the board to, you know, have traction on the floor. So when you're out there playing, you're not chasing your pedal board around the stage every time your foot makes contact with it. That would be pretty funny. Yeah, so we got our feet in. Okay. Now the next thing you would do is mark and drill out. This is, I've already done it on this because I said this is something I've used before, but basically you would take your drawer pull of choice and a ruler and measure between the centers, and this is 3 inches exactly. So you would just basically measure 2 points 3 inches apart and drill a hole through the board big enough to receive a number 8 machine screw. All right, so like I said, these were already pre-done, so I'm just going to go ahead and put them on. So I'm going to put it through here. Going to screw it on here. Okay. Get another one of the screws. Okay. Tighten them down. Usually I don't recommend using a drill for machine screws. It's very easy to kind of, if you're cross-threaded, it's very easy to really make a mess with a drill with machine screws. So I would use, if you're not used to your drill and don't use it every day, I would probably just use a screwdriver, but I'm already kind of threading them by hand so I know that they're not cross-threaded. All right, let me go ahead and secure this down. Okay, so there we have our board. All right, now the next step that we would want to do is we want to basically lay the whole thing out. All right, so what kind of board are we going to use? We got our cable too, some of the Three Monkeys solderless stuff. Put this over here next to the soldering iron. So we're obviously still chasing that sound. So the heart of this board is going to be a Pedalfire. It's going to be the Smallbox. So we're going to put that in the center. Okay. Then we're going to start thinking about, well, we want this board to sort of be very task specific. All right. It's not going to be like the other boards where you can, well, you can probably use this for many different styles, but this is going to be specifically for getting the tone off the first album, right? So what we had in that was fairly simple. You know, you had a flanger, you had a phaser that used to come in and out on certain songs. You had an Echoplex, you had a Marshall, and you had some studio equipment, right? But that was also somewhat simple. You had 2 cabinets. You had a JBL cabinet. You had a Celestion cabinet. Those were mic'd up and sent through some studio gear like EQs and mics and compressors. And then the signal itself was split. One side was drenched, basically hard panned in chamber reverb from the chamber at the studio there at Sunset Sound. And the other side, the other channel was basically panned hard the other side and was relatively dry. So to accomplish those tasks of getting that sound, it is sort of, you know, the beginnings of like a wet, dry sort of rig, but not, you know, in the sense that we know it now. So let's start off with, we're going to have our flanger, right, and our phase 90. So we're going to do this all, I'm not going to use vintage equipment on this one. We're going to use stuff that you can buy, right, stuff that you can get at the store today. So we've got a newer, you know, battery operated MXR flanger, one of the EVH phase 90s. We've got one of the Echoplexes, right? So this will be representing what's going into the front of the amp. We're also going to put our power supply on, and we're going to use this fuel tank right here, the T-Rex fuel tank, the Chameleon. I'm going to place that there, and it's a good idea to always lay all your stuff out first to sort of see how everything's going to fit together and what your signal chain is going to look like and stuff like that. All right, so this is sort of the heart of what would be considered the preamp, the amplifier, right? So I don't know if you guys are watching this thing have seen the earlier videos of the 7884 pedal board that included a little bit of an interface, and we're going to build a similar interface for that as well, which incorporates a buffer as well as let's say 2 loops that are accessed by a momentary switch, which allows you to get these sounds. You would basically leave the flanger and the phaser on and then use the surrogate switch, the interface box, for bringing those into the loop. And as they're momentary switches, you can get in and out very quickly without having to double tap. As in, when it's pressed down, it's going to bring the effect into the chain, and when you release, the effect will be gone. For the phase 90, we're going to include a percentage of the signal to always be going through as well, the phase signal. So we'll have like a 20% or so signal of phase, of the phase 90 being mixed with the dry tone as well, which I think was part of that sound. So we're going to build that as well, and I'll show you how we're going to build that. So let me move the board a little bit better in the center here. It's going to be built into this box right here, all right? And that'll have the ins and outs of everything you want. In this, well, this probably won't show up very well, but basically there's a power in for the buffer. There's a auxiliary DC out for running the flanger at 18, because this will be powered at 18. There'll be a send and return, and in and an out. So each send and return will go to the phase, the flanger into the phase 90. The 2 buttons right here, momentary, for bringing them in. The out going on to the Echoplex. So we'll be building that into this box. So that'll take care of everything before the amp. Now for after the amp, we obviously would have the speaker cabinets, right? After the amplifier, and the microphones going into the board at the recording studio. So we got this. We were talking about it last week, but I picked up one of these guys. It's the it's either Hot One or Hot Tone or Ho-Tone, depending on who you talk to. We'll call it the Ho-Tone for right now. And it's an IR loader pedal, very compact. It allows you to load your own IRs that you can buy third party or modify third party. When I got this, I also downloaded a copy of Redwire's IR. It's basically a manager and an editor, and it allows you to combine different impulse responses from different vendors that are in the compatible format, which is like wave files, things like that, which they all come in, and then stack them, mix them, and then EQ them. So I came up with a file, an IR file, that was made up of a Celestion EVH cabinet, the Fat Celestion, as well as the JBL from Redwire's, the JBL D120 212, and I mixed those 2 together and then EQ'd them, created an IR file to go into this. So that is what's going to be loaded into this unit, and that'll be placed over here. All right, so we'll go out of the amp into the Omni. Then from the Omni, it's not here right now, but we're going to demo out the MXR Studio Compressor, which is a sort of a compact clone of the 1176. It has the same features, the in and out, the attack and release, the gain reduction levels at the same intervals as an 1176. We'll see how it works compared to the real ones that we've been using, or the clones of real ones that are note for note. Obviously, I'm still partial to the rack mount units, as they have the transformers in them that saturate. They have the same sort of preamps in them that give you that gritty sort of semi-distorted sort of sound, which I think was an integral part of that tone. But we're gonna demo it out on this rig, because this is obviously a travel rig for getting that sound. So we'll put a little bit of a place marker. We're going to use this will be where the 1176 will go. All right, So then from the 1176, we would have a dry sound directly out, which would just be the cabinet mic'd and squashed to one side. And then to the other side, we would need a reverb signal, a reverbated signal. And I'm partial to the Lexicon patches. Maybe it's just ear bias that I've owned Lexicon equipment for most of my life. Or not most of my life, but most of my reverb equipment has always been Lexicon. And I think it just has this sound to it, which really pleases my ear. So Greg, my partner, he keyed me into this pedal that Joe Perry's using on his board, which has the Lexicon algorithms in it, and that's this unit right here, which is the Hardwire RV7 from Digitech. You can see it's got the little Lexicon logo right there, and it has you know, a few different settings here. It has the room, the plate, reverse, modulated, gated, hall, and spring. Now I think we're going to use room. I mean, a lot of people have always, you know, assumed that Van Halen 1 was used with an EMT plate. That's not the case as far as I know. The Sunset Sound Studios had a really cool reverb chamber that they used quite heavily, and basically what happened was a send came off the board, off the mixing board, and went out to really just a speaker in this room that had no parallel walls in it. It basically was, you know, shaped kind of oddly, very asymmetrically. It wasn't four walls together. I think it's anechoic is how they call it. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But the walls are all kind of, you know, not directly opposed to one another, so that they don't have standing waves, and the sound wave can just bounce off of everything and keep going forever. And it really gives a very cool sounding reverb. So they had the speaker in there, and then they would put microphones up in various places around the room to capture the reverb. And then that was fed back into the mixing board and mixed in with the signal. And in that case, they panned it all hard to one side. So we're going to use a very wet room for one side, right? And then a dry for the other side. So we're going to need one more piece of equipment here. And we're going to use this little guy right here, this little half space box, to build out what will be a splitter, right? Like a specifically designed breakout box or splitter. Got a little bit of the drawing here. I probably shouldn't have done it in red because it's hard to see. But basically you would have the input, right? So it would be 5 jacks. You would have the input, which would come from the MXR compressor. It would be split right there, 2 ways, one going directly out to your speaker or to your monitor or to your mixing console or to your DAW or front of house. The other one will go into the input of the hardwire reverb, and then the output of the hardwire will go into the other jack and then leave that particular place as well, leave the box as well through a jack there. We might also put in a potentiometer here to use as a balance pot to decide how much signal is going in which direction. We'll see if that's necessary so we can balance the whole thing right. It may not be needed, but it's always good to have the ability to sort of balance from the board, as opposed to relying on like someone at front of house. Hey, you know, is it wet enough over there? Is it dry enough over there? It doesn't sound right to me over here. It's good if you could do it from a place at the board as well as from, like, say, front of house. So we're going to build one of those things into this pedal, into this enclosure right here. Then we're going to fasten all the units down, as we did in the 78 to 84 pedal board with these, which I got from Mauser, which are just basically lug locking mat terminals. And I'll take one out and show you. They're basically solder tabs, I call them. And this is sort of what they look like, right? Now the part number from Mauser for right here is 534914. So if you wanted to get some of these, you can do that. And what you do basically is remove the screws from the back, or 2 screws or 4 screws, however many from the back of your pedal, and then place these between the screw and the unit So you've got that then basically on the other side, right? And then you can put a number 4 wood screw through there and attach it directly to the board, so you're not using Velcro or anything, and it'll never come up. It'll be permanently affixed there. And then we're also going to use, in this case, we're going to use some black cable. All right, so I got my kit here. Use some of our black cable so that it kind of hides in the board, right? And so maybe we'll use some red too. Maybe we'll use red for the DC and use black for the AC for the audio path. I don't know. We'll see how that all goes. As you know, as time progresses. And also too, I should say, when you're laying this stuff out, take a couple of your connectors, right? Or take your connectors. And we've got the monkeys, as I said, the 3 monkey solderless connectors here. And they have basically the lowest profile of any connector on the market. Any smaller and you really can't pull them in and out of the unit. We can make them smaller, but you can't really pull them out anymore. But basically, like I always say, you just basically screw them on. And when they're bottomed out, you've got your cable done. There's no soldering, no wire stripping. So I really like that. It makes things a lot easier and faster, and you don't have to poison yourself with solder fumes or introduce a lot of lead into the environment or mess up your solder connections. But back to the point being, make sure you've got your connectors when you're laying all this stuff out. Because then what you're going to want to do is, let's say, the spacing between the Echo unit and the Phase 90, you can really nest them, right? So you can put them like this, so they have some space between them like that, or you can put them this way, just so that you have enough room for the cable escape. And they have a little U-channel cut in them in these connectors as well, so you can kind of scoot the cable underneath and it won't, stick out too far. So you want to do that. And also, we're going to be using the 3 monkey stuff too for the DC for the power as well. So you'd want to get these as well and kind of put them in the units and then lay everything out how you want it. Make sure that there's room between them all. And when there is, you could basically mark and drill and install all your boards and then start wiring. All right, so I think that's good for today. Like I said, this is going to be a project over a few days, so you can follow along. So this is stage 1. We'll be back tomorrow or the next day, depending upon when other parts of the board come in. I'm like you guys. I don't get everything I want all at once. I kind of gotta, wait for things and, purchase them as I can. So we gotta wait on the MXR unit a little bit. But we'll have it, and we'll put this pedal board together, and it should sound pretty cool and be a lot of fun. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you again next time.